could stand and pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to open public comment at 6:33, and that'll stay open for 30 minutes. Seeing none, we're going to go on to our first presentation, which is Global Education at Winnacunnet.
Guess that's me.
That's you.
Not only.
I love this program.
I know, be careful with you.
It's working.
Half a dollar.
Okay. Well, good evening. Welcome. So I had the opportunity last week to go to the Global Education Benchmark Group Conference. I went there along with Ross Phillips to talk about global education and how we can provide opportunities for our students to become global citizens. So the Global Education Benchmark Group, their mission is to promote the development of global citizens in independent schools and beyond through global curriculum, experiences, and instructional support. There's 360 schools that are members of this group from 22 different nations. And how many nations were there last week?
There were 14 nations represented there last week. That's great.
And it was about 400 people. It was up in Montreal, Canada, too. So what do we have? And again, listening to a lot of the speakers, it was one of those things, well, what do we do here at Winnacunnet High School? So we have a lot of activities that have helped our students evolve and grow, their understanding of complex issues, and encompassing our world and being empathetic to the ever-changing human and environmental interactions that are forever shaping our planet. And some of this started, and Ross can speak to some of this, is we've been doing the shared studios for several years. And he'll come up. And the design challenge. And then he came to me last year. Last year in the spring, we actually joined the Global Education Benchmark Group.
Gonna bring the microphone.
You can speak up there.
Yeah.
You can speak there.
Okay. All right. Let me see. So, Shared Studios is a partnership that we've had now for about 10 years. Over the course of most of the visits, and including this year, we're going to have roughly half of our students are going to be able to experience the portal and the different conversations that take place. So we've talked to, this year alone, refugee camps and displaced persons camps in Uganda and Erbil, Iraq, an artist collective in South Africa, the portal in Mexico City's in the heart of like the biggest major kind of thoroughfare, and about 1 million people walk through every day in that part of Mexico City. So sometimes it's very curated conversation, sometimes it's more open. And we had a really cool conversation earlier this year too with an education training center in Mali, which is using artificial intelligence to train and teach people the programs and the skills that they need, regardless of if they have a teacher available to them or not. So they were able to talk to our students about some ways that they use artificial intelligence that we had never really thought of, simply because they don't have access to some of the education facilities that they would necessarily need. We also got an opportunity to talk to a really, really unique, cool kid. His name's Dowdy Brave, and he's a musician who's actually born in the camp in Uganda, but he's a Rwandan citizen, and even though the genocide ended in '94, he's 19 now, and he still hasn't been home. He's never actually visited his own country. So talking about nations and kind of people's belief and view of those things with somebody who's never been home, what he considers his home was a really unique experience for the student. So it's a great opportunity, something that there were some people at GEBG who've used it, beyond just like teachers at Portsmouth. Some other staff had at some other schools, so it was cool to have an opportunity to talk about their experiences and how they'd used it over the course of their time. And then something else we started this year, this was something that we've been working on actually in conjunction with Portsmouth High School, and Julie Hall was huge in implementing this, as well as one of our seniors, Nicole Sharapera. She helped, did a tremendous amount of work the first time we did this. We've done 2 of these this year. The first one we did focused on fast fashion, so we brought in people who own secondhand clothing stores that like Cotillion Bureau and Offbeat Vintage and Drift, and we talked to a gentleman who owns a company recycling secondhand clothes that distributes them all over the world. And we had the students spend the morning talking to each other, talking to these experts, working with the team in South Africa and Mexico, and we did the Foods Day, where they were given the task of, okay, here's a challenge, here's the information on it, and then they had to create a working prototype of a real world solution to one of the problems. So Jonathan, who owns the company EcoSmith Recyclers, said, all of our clothing is recyclable. The only challenge with it is you have to put like fabric in the same bins to recycle it. So one of the groups, their prototype was you'd scan the tags of your clothing and it would distribute it between a synthetics bin and a like natural fibers bin, so that it helped to reduce the impacts and some of the ways things had to be recycled. And then in addition to that, the second day we did was something we called it the future of food. So the students were tasked with identifying where there are shortcomings in our food supply chain. So we talked to Vernon Family Farms, came in and gave a phenomenal presentation about like small scale local farms and some of the things that they're doing to try and promote their business and their industry. We talked to Mr. Fox Composting and Gather, which is a food insecurity group in Portsmouth. And one of the ideas that the students had is that actually, I didn't know this at all, when you're raising chickens, if you want to sell them commercially, they can never go outside. Like there's something where, excuse me, they can, but they won't be insured if they leave like a covered area. Something to do with just the way the insurance industry works. So one of the groups designed like a glass screen house on skis, so you could tow it around your farm. So the animals were never technically outside, but they'd be able to move around and be free range and outdoors while inside to be safe from insurance reasons and safe from predators. So the kids had to pitch these ideas. We brought in other staff members, and a lot of the guests were able to stay and like vote on some of these ideas to talk about what they thought was going to be, the best idea, the best sales pitch. They had a number of little tasks they had to do that day. We also had a lot of fun the second day we did it. The kids made their own lunch. So like that was something a lot of them had never done. When I like laid out the recipe and I was like, okay, cool, let's make lunch. And the kids were like, how do I open the beans? And I was like, you just open the can. So they got some life skills out of it too. Things they didn't necessarily expect that morning. And it was a lot of fun that day. And so the first quote, since we're working with Portsmouth, we invited some of their staff down, and this is from their director of curriculum and instruction. And she was really taken with the community involvement and the ability for some of these students to connect with local entrepreneurs, to develop either networking connections or potential ideas into the future. And then the quote at the bottom was from one of the students when we gave them a survey afterwards. And this student said, "It was an amazing, super cool experience. Loved this so much. Definitely learned more about this topic than I would have in a regular class. Sometimes having a deep dive is the best way to learn. And I think this is one of those times." And next year, one of the topics we're proposing doing is one, we're going to look at energy, and then another idea we're going to explore is the future of schools. Like they've got a lot of experience in schools. They know some good things and some bad things. So we're going to bring in some different educational experts and give the kids the task of basically, in their minds, re-envisioning either the school day or the blocks or something like that and see what they come up with.
You sure you want to do that? Just to go back, what are we doing at Winnacunnet High School? So clearly this ties into the portrait of the learner. One of the themes, students share a commitment to their local and global community. Shared Studios Design Challenge, and we have a lot of curriculum course offerings. We have World Travel Day, Culture Matters, which we'll be having in a couple of weeks. A lot of curriculum content, the ELO experience that students have, field trips. Again, we've gone several years into Cambridge to the Silk Road Burger Cuisine, and also the Museum of Fine Arts. Student travel this year, students went to London, and actually we have a group of students right now in Spain doing an exchange program, and next week we have some students going to Costa Rica. And then we'll talk a little bit about the indigenous history of this area. Back to the slide presentation. Russ can speak to some of these. These are the course offerings that we have in U.S. history and history. Global Perspectives 1 and 2, all students take this in their freshman year. World History 1 and World History 2. And then electives, Age of Rising, Cultural Geography, this is Africa. I know Sarah's back there, Ross is here, any other? So, clearly from a global standpoint, a lot of the offerings are in the social studies content area. My goal of going onto this trip to see how we can integrate some of this into the other content areas and use some of this so it's across the school. The indigenous history at Winnacunnet. So the records show that an Indian village has been laid out and was flourishing on what is now the Meeting House Green and along the lower part of Exeter Road. This village was known as the Winnacunnet Settlement. The Indians living there were probably members of the Wampanoag tribe and the Abenaki Nation. Winnacunnet was considered to be a mission village at one time, and that the name association references beautiful place of pine trees along the river. So, I mean, a lot of the logo that we have with pine trees, beautiful place of pines. Clearly our goal, and Donna can speak to some of this, is we're trying to move, how do we recognize what the history is from Native American culture, and how can we tie that into Winnacunnet High School and Warriors. A lot of schools, a lot of communities in the area have created land acknowledgements. So this is something that we worked with Denise Pouliot and
Denise and Paul Pouliot.
Denise and Paul Pouliot. Again, a lot of some of the places we went to, some of the sessions we went to, actually this was up in Montreal, so there's a large, they're recognizing the large population that's still up there, and some of the things that we heard that's still happening to the Native Americans or First Nation tribes should not be happening. So a lot of them have created these land acknowledgement statements that they read prior to meetings, they read prior to, we can read this prior to the school board meetings as we adopt it as we move forward. So right now, this is just continue some work that we did a few years ago. We've been working with a marketing firm, creating a video to keep track of the history, and we'll put that together. If you want to speak more.
Yeah, I'll just mention really quickly. So the work that we did a couple of years ago with Denise and Paul Pouliot, they're from the Kawasaki Band of the Abenaki Pennacook people. And they worked with, at the time we had a social studies teacher, Stacy Brown, who her and I, through over Zoom mostly, started to just ask questions about, as we're making this transition and removing Indigenous imagery from our logos, how do we recognize and honor the connection that we want to maintain with Winnacunnet and our Indigenous roots? And so what does that connection and that, what does that look like moving forward? And one of the biggest things we wanted to do is make this a learning opportunity for our students. And so we started to just go down this road of having conversations around, as Bill was pointing out, what is our history? What does that mean? What does the term Winnacunnet mean? Where did that originate? And it branched out into conversations around, okay, how are we going to move forward and stay connected to those Indigenous roots? And we started to have a lot of conversations around sustainability and acknowledging the role that we play in being purveyors of the land, and what does that mean moving forward for how Winnacunnet can establish more sustainable options. And the greenhouse is one obvious thing that we've done moving in that direction, but what can we do so that it allows students to make an impact here in the community, in their school, in their community, and then think globally beyond that. So we're, as Bill pointed out, we're in the process of kind of combing through those videos that we created, and it was sort of really a series of interviews. And how do we translate those into curriculum or things that we can use and embed in curriculum, making them opportunities for our students to learn? And then what is the next step? So are we going to, look at our identity as warriors, and what does that mean moving forward, and how are we still connected to the Indigenous community, and how are we representing all of that moving forward? And so the land acknowledgement, which is kind of a small lift, but what it represents is massive, right? So just putting this on a plaque and really honoring it is one thing, but carrying it out and having a call to action because of it is really the big step, and that's really what we want to do. And that does start with trying to find resources to create something really meaningful and marketable, and using it, to help our students and our community as a whole. So we're sort of in the process of figuring out where we go from here, and how we get there. Yeah.
And I will read this. Please excuse my pronunciation on some of these. Winnacunnet High School is located on Winnacunnet, which is the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Abenaki, Pennacook, and Wabanaki peoples, who have ongoing cultural and spiritual connections to this area. It is important to note, before Europeans colonized the area, the people referred to themselves as Al-Abenak, human beings connected to each other through matrilineal relationships. The colonial settlers divided the people into tribal groups, often naming them according to their location. The first mention of Winnacunnet is by Colonel Governor Winthrop. Although there are many spellings of Winnacunnet in the colonial records, it is clear the word means a nice place where there are pine trees and the water flows out to the ocean, as possible reference to how the Hampton River makes a clean pathway out to the ocean. It is unclear where this Winnacunnet village would have been, possibly where Hampton Beach or where the center of town is today. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land and waterways and the Outback people who have stood in Dakina throughout the generations, and we also acknowledge the harm caused by the loss of unceded land. So, we'll bring that forward as we move. But again, this is all tied together. How can we recognize where we're from and how Winnacunnet plays an important role in what we do? Next steps, we'll continue our partnership with Share Studios. The company is going to update some of the equipment that we provided on, so we're going to incorporate that into staff, into other programs, that we can connect all of our curriculum and departments into the conversations with the locations. In addition, as Ross said, we hope to expand our design challenge days and continue working with Portsmouth High School. The other thing, we have the embedded professional development, so how can we tie some of this into the embedded PD that our teachers have, and then also use Winnacunnet High School University that our teachers lead to share this information. And that's it. Any questions?
Is that do they still use, I know that was one of the original things that they did. Is that how they still do it?
Yeah, so
That's so cool.
the
So old school.
one of the new things that I'm in talks and they're gonna get us, I think it'll be here by the start of next school year, is a new inflatable. So that's actually one of the 3 original inflatables that Shared Studios purchased more than a decade ago. And we had an opportunity, I connected with Shared Studios while they were at the South by Southwest Festival to talk to potential educators who were touring the festival site. And one of their directors, when he saw pictures of our setup, he was like, I didn't know any of those still existed. So we're in the works. So the next one that they're gonna send us, the really nice thing about it is once the frame gets inflated, you can actually turn the fan off. So it'll be a lot quieter in the space, and it's a little smaller too, so it'll fit in a few more locations.
Okay, great, thanks. Another question, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
How many students a year go through this?
This year we'll have roughly half of the school population, numbers-wise, go through. Other years we've been fortunate enough to have the whole population go through.
Awesome. Anybody else? Questions?
We have 3 days of connections coming up, May 6th, 7th, and 8th, I believe, are our next 3 days. And so if you let me know, or let Principal McGowan know, let one of us know, we can get you the schedule and the connection times and, and topics and all of that. So.
Yeah, so send me the schedule, I'll send it out.
Yeah.
Great.
You know, I see so much potential here for inspiration. And, you know, it's obvious that the students are excited about this, they're intrigued, they're learning. Do you weave into that energy any ideas or suggestions for students to use this passion toward a career? I mean, do you tie any of this into next steps for them?
In one of the classes I teach, they do a trimester-long project where they research a waste product in a non-Western country, and they have to make it into a marketable product. So they have to take recycled or plastic and recycle it to make sunglasses. And the students make websites, they make fake social media accounts from templates that Ms. Hall has helped make. They have to make videos, they have to make a book. So they get all of these various skills that then we can be like, okay, if you like this piece of the project, graphic design might be a good fit. If you like this piece of the project, then being a historian or a researcher might fit. So in some of my classes, they get that direct kind of piece, and then whenever we have the design challenge days, all of the guests who come in are always like, here's how I got interested in doing this. So if you see yourself liking this, maybe advertising, maybe farming, maybe production is an industry you'd want to be in. So we do try really hard to make some of those connections for them.
Thank you.
And then if a student does see that connection and we don't offer at the school, we've got the ELO program that
sure.
students can.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
We still have time for public comment a little bit, so still don't see anybody. Nope. All right. Superintendent's report, please.
Okay. So I think the board is aware that the New Hampshire legislature has just had crossovers, so bills that passed in the House have moved over to the Senate and vice versa. We are scheduled to have a session, I want to say April 30th now?
Yeah.
Thank you. With our local legislators to review bills that remain kind of in play for this legislative session as they pertain to education. So we look forward to that. That is a public meeting, and it is held in this room. What else is on my list? Oh, so I'm sure that Mr. McGowan is probably going to talk about this, but we had Step Up Day for our 8th graders last week, as well as the Spring Mixer.
8th grade mixer.
And I had a chance to stop in on both of those, but the piece that I would connect to related to our student leadership team also met last Friday. So some of the Sunday school 7th and 8th graders were here, and so that
8th graders were kind of reporting out on their experience transitioning. Transition was the topic of that conversation. But it was just such a natural, supportive, open, honest conversation where the high schoolers were saying, oh, I remember that. You don't have to worry about that. Tell your friends this. Are you coming to the, are you coming to the mixer? Here's what you want to, just
nice.
a really engaging conversation. And they're brainstorming about ways to improve the transition process and maybe make connections a little sooner was fantastic. So I'm meeting with our administrative team and for them to kind of take back to school counselors to share some of those ideas. Students are very passionate about making it as smooth an experience as possible for everyone involved, and so our high school students were able to kind of reflect on what had worked for them. Our 8th graders were kind of able to speak to their recent experiences and the questions that they still had, but I think it will lead to
Awesome.
people being even more excited to come here in the future. We don't have Luke tonight, so just a couple highlights of some of the student events that I've seen. Again, I'm sure Mr. McGowan will speak to those. Winnacunnet's Empty Bowls event, we had, I think Beauty and the Beast was still less than a month ago, but our sending schools are also very engaged in theater productions and musical productions this time of year as well. And then assessments, we just had SATs here. State assessments in our sending schools for grades 3 through 8 begins just after April vacation, so busy time of year, and those results will be shared out with parents and families. That was it in my highlights.
Thank you. Any questions? Alrighty. Curriculum instruction and assessment report. Dr. Hobbs.
Thank you. So just a couple things with respect to PD. First of all, just kudos to Mary Toomey, who put on the April 3rd presentation. It was PD for the 400 teachers we have here at SAU 21. It was a gentleman named Mirko Chardon. He specializes in UDL, which is Universal Design for Learning. And the idea there is just to make all teaching and learning, grades PK through 12, just more accessible for kids, whether or not they're on an IEP or 504, et cetera. He was inspirational. It was great. I don't want to steal Mary's thunder. I think she's going to do kind of a larger report about that. But she did a great job, and I can speak from experience. That's hard work to put that together. It's a little dated, but Eclipse 2024. Just kudos to Julie Hall, actually, the Winnacunnet Tech integrator here. She put resources together that I actually stole and shared out across the SAE. We had a number of watch parties, and it ended up being a great event. Some boring stuff on title grants. I'm not going to read this or really go into detail. The big idea this year is the New Hampshire Education Department has kind of revamped the entire title grant process into what they're calling a consolidated application. The notion is that it's going to make it easier for us to be eligible for some of these things. Knock on wood on that. But the point is we'll get it done one way or another just to make sure we're eligible for Title 1, 2, 3, and 4 grants. And last but not least, educator endorsements. We are past the April 15th deadline, and I can proudly report we hit 100% on time this year, which was incredible. All of our teachers and some of our principals, including Mr. McGowan, are recertified. So we're all credentialed to teach for next year across the SAU. So
That's awesome.
that's it. Unless you guys have questions.
Congrats.
Can I just add one comment about Universal Design for Learning? So if people aren't familiar, it's a term that comes out of architecture, right? So the idea is, like, instead of building a staircase, which only some people can access, right, you build a ramp, which everyone can use. Mirko Chardon talked about, we know what our curriculum goals are, right? If you think of the mountaintop, those are the standards, those are the expectations, the competencies that we want every student to attain. And then you think about maybe 3 or 4 different pathways to get to the top of that mountain, right? You might have a paved, accessible trail, right? You might have like the short but really, really steep climb, right? That you need the ropes and the picks. And you might have a couple that are longer but a little more meandering, that have some challenging sections, but most people can access. And that's the idea of universal design. And so teachers had some time on that day to work collaboratively or independently to think about within their own curricula, how can they make that goal, right, that high standard, that competency they want those students to achieve, accessible to all the students in their classroom who are coming in with different backgrounds, different experiences, different learning styles, and different strengths, right, that they're bringing to the table. So that's the idea of universal design for learning, and it ties in really nicely to the work we're doing with Portrait of a Learner.
And it's good teaching.
Exactly.
Well, and it's like the one that we did, how many years ago, the Pathways to Success at Winnacunnet, remember the map, which is, you know, and it just builds on that too, which was great, so it's awesome. Well, thank you.
Good, all right,
Good job, thanks. Student services report, if there's any questions, Mary's gonna do it next month, right?
She'll be here next month.
Next month, okay. Principals report, Bill?
Good evening once again. Not much in the report, just the enrollments and the upcoming activities, but we've had a lot of things have occurred. We had Beauty and the Beast. That was a very successful 3-day showing. Unfortunately, some of the lead actors got sick, so the stand-ins had to come in at the end, but they all did a great job. We had the SAU 21 band and chorus concert last week. I can't even keep track of time anymore.
I know.
Empty Bowls, which was a very successful Empty Bowls.
That was probably the most I've seen people there for one, but like they were almost out of bowls, which never happens. Yep. So it was a huge success.
And we've had a couple successful trips. Again, right now, some students are in Spain. Next week, some students are going to Costa Rica. Sarah brought several students down last week to Washington, D.C. for close-up. Do you want to say anything about that, or you want to come back in the future?
Sure. I wasn't prepared, but I actually do have access to my drive. I have pictures if you want. But we took 11 students to DC last week, or 6 days. I think the highlight for them was Wednesday, which was Capitol Hill Day for us, and it's from like 8 a.m. to 10:30 at night because they go to a theater production at the Kennedy Center after all day of being in Congress. This is the first time since COVID that we've actually been able to see both the House and the Senate in action together, which has been kind of nice. And so the kids really got to see them not only debate bills, but vote on them. We got to meet with Maggie Hassan, that actually was posted on our Twitter, that Winnacunnet students were there. Unfortunately, our other representatives were very busy because it was a busy week. They had just gotten back from Easter break. But that didn't deter the kids. They were just really excited to see folks that they recognize in the news every day. For instance, like we were able to see former Speaker Nancy Pelosi. We got to see Tammy Duckworth vote. We saw Elizabeth Warren. We saw Jean Shaheen and Maggie Hassan vote on the Senate side. So lots of folks, again, that they would recognize that they were able to see not only vote, but also debate. So that was an exciting time for us. And actually kind of flew by pretty fast because of all the action that was going on. But they also did a model Congress with kids from 8 different states in the United States that got together that are part of the Close Up program that we've been doing since 1990. And so they pick some of the hot topics in the United States and they discuss them: homelessness, sustainability, water, and of course I'm going to forget the fourth one, but they discuss those issues. Oh, sorry, gun control was another one. So they get into their workshop groups and they discuss them, and then they actually report out and debate them. And then by the end of the week, we do a banquet and they celebrate each other in their workshops. And 2 of our students from Winnacunnet were actually picked to speak. And so that was very exciting. Sam Souther and Reed Westergren were actually in front of 100+ other students speaking about their time. I have it on video. I shared it with Mr. McGowan and fellow other admin in our department. You know, they really represented well, and they had a great time. We have kids that say they want to come back next year, so it was great. We had a good time.
Awesome.
So,
yeah. Thank you for doing that, too.
Yeah,
no problem.
I
I love it.
so
We have a
fun.
great time, and
believe it or not, we appreciate it. Mr. Gushy and myself, and Mr. Wallace was a substitute this year. But the teacher program that they provide, the professional development, is absolutely amazing. This year, they actually took us to Gettysburg. And I really appreciated that personally, because next year I'm teaching U.S. History 1 again. It's been 2 years. So it was kind of a nice refreshing for that unit for me. And they actually took us to the sites of where some of the troops were stationed, and I was being made fun of because I got all excited when they showed us where New Hampshire was. So that was great. So me and Mr. Wallace got to nerd out for the week on all the monuments and the different displays, so that was great. So we appreciate it as teachers as well, so thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And they were even delayed 5 hours coming home too.
Oh,
Yes, that was a fun time. And then 2 hours on the tarmac on top of that.
so
Yeah,
much fun.
We got to Winnacunnet at 2:30 in the morning, so. Yeah,
Piece
but
of
that's okay,
cake.
we survived.
Piece of cake, right? Oh, thank you so much.
And then band and music programs were down to Philadelphia this past weekend, and they were also delayed.
I was just
coming
gonna say,
home.
they were delayed too, right?
They were delayed 5 hours, but they were home by 11.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had to get a new plane.
yeah, oh boy.
And I
Oh,
spoke to,
gee,
and I
new
spoke
bus.
to one of the students, and I guess it was very windy down there, so as far as the music kept on getting blown all over the place.
Oh,
We had the 8th grade mixer last Friday. That was a success. One student we did have to take home because his ride left without him, and we couldn't get home. So actually, living in Hampton, actually, Officer DeLuca took him home.
oh, nice, great.
And the step up day was a success. We had all the incoming 8th graders walk around and meet some of the teachers as far as what the content will be, and then also the elective fair we had. Sports is in full season now that the weather's nice. We're being able to catch up. Some of the teams are undefeated. Well, they were undefeated. Hopefully, they still remain
Yeah.
undefeated.
Really.
I believe it was girls lacrosse and girls soccer were doing very well.
Good.
So, but overall, things are going well. Which brings us to the end of the month, the end of the year, which is going to go by very quickly. Spring break is next week. We get back from spring break. We've got trimester 3 parent conferences, so we're halfway through trimester 3. So we have about 6-7 weeks left. Saturday, 2 weeks from Saturday, we got the class of 2025, the Grand March and the Junior Prom. 10-minute plays the following Saturday. The International Thespian Society induction ceremony is on Tuesday, May 14th. We have an early release. That should not say no school for students, because students will be here for half the day, so I need to correct that. Students, you're paying attention, we do have school. We did have the SAT testing last week, and then in May 22nd, we have the state science assessment. More performances by the music students, the Winnacunnet Coffee House. Then they also go to Winnacunnet Jazz at the Seashell and the spring concert.
And it says art show too, so that's on the 15th, May 15th, the art show?
Yep, yep.
Okay, perfect.
And then we'll discuss the end of the year, some of the dates a little bit later tonight, but it goes by pretty quick when we get back in a week after vacation. But so far it's been a great school year, and then things should be great moving forward.
Perfect, thank you. It's 7:11 and I'm gonna be closing public comment. Finance report is in here, if anybody has questions on it. Matt is available. And same thing, facilities report. Winnacunnet Pride, kind of touched on that already. Is there any more that we need to do? No. How about Winnacunnet Pride that Luke got into Yale and Harvard? Can I say that?
You did.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did it, sorry. I hope we didn't embarrass you, Luke, but we're really proud of you, so. Next now, we have minutes, so can I have a motion for the March 12th minutes? Unless anybody has any,
20th, March 20th.
what did I say?
12th.
Okay.
It's okay.
20th.
I'll move that we accept the minutes from March 20th.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. And the next is the work session. on March 24th.
Sorry, I just got logged out.
Oh,
I did too.
I'll be back with you folks in a moment.
Okay,
Be back making motions in no time.
there we go. Technology, it's our friend, right?
I think you were all there, so if someone wants to move from, we can.
I don't believe I was.
You're listed as being present?
Let me see.
I was zoomed in, so I'm not sure if
That work
That was
session.
with me, yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
I can move,
Okay.
acceptance of the minutes from the work session of March 24th.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Our next one is withdrawal from building maintenance expendable trust for the athletic field access pathway.
Yes, so the board wanted to kind of put this off to give yourself some time to think about that. No real change to the finances, right? I think Dr. Ferrer articulated that pretty well at the last meeting. I think it really is up to the board, again, whether or not you want to move forward at this time with that withdrawal.
And the only thing I can mention, we spoke about donations, and I did have an individual reach out and say that they're interested. I haven't received anything yet. And then there's another group that potentially may be able to donate based on what other funding sources or projects they're looking at. But again, there's no guarantee.
Right.
But I did speak with Nancy Tuttle that we have, even though the project would start over the summer, based on if we receive those donations sometime August, September, we can still apply them to the project.
Okay.
And that goes true for any other donations received, but right now, we don't have any, there's the potential.
Okay. Thoughts and ideas, guys?
No, I've been going back and forth with this. I know it's something we need because it's something we need for the community, and it makes it more of an accessible space. Accessibility equals inclusion, and that always wins in my book.
Universal design.
What was that?
Universal design.
Universal design, exactly. We gotta do what we gotta do, so, hopefully we can get some donations, but if not, this is something we need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tamara?
Well, obviously, I was quite passionate about the project, and I think I was a little bit taken aback that last meeting. And I just wanted to thank Principal McGowan, who's been a steadfast supporter. I understand that sometimes money comes into play, but I also, in retrospect, I was thinking that I believe you mentioned that we hadn't actually even touched that fund since you'd been here. It was like 20 years ago, and I got to thinking about the folks who had paid taxes for that fund, and I thought, I was one of them. I chipped in 20 years ago. And I feel like it's definitely something important for Winnacunnet. And I know our finance folks always look at the big picture, but I feel this is really, I feel like it's Winnacunnet's money to spend. And I feel like it's for the people who support us. It's for the folks who come to the football games and the softball games and the
Graduations.
it just, there's so much opportunity. And I feel, again, I get on my PR hat, and I feel like this is such a wonderful way to bring more people in. And I did have one question, and I don't know, perhaps Bill, you can address it, or I know one of the concerns was we were getting close to using that entire fund, and we were concerned that what if something happened, right? Where would we go? And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, are we not fully vested in insurance policies? And is there an example that anybody can give me where we weren't covered, right? For some, unforeseen circumstance. Was there something that we actually need to be looking into being covered for if we're worried that we might need that money for an emergency? Again, I'm sort of.
I think most catastrophic things, right, were you to have a roof collapse,
Yeah.
or you to have, I'm thinking terrible, awful scenarios in my head, but a fire, right, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Insurance would certainly cover those, right, in 99.9% of the cases, right,
Right,
unless there was
right.
some deliberate malfeasance or something, but the only thing I can think of would be like an unexpected equipment failure, right? Like if a boiler were to fail prematurely, that's not going to be covered by insurance. It's probably outside of your warranty window, but maybe shorter than the expected lifespan. But to Bill's point, like that hasn't happened in the 20 years he's been here.
No, I know, in all the buildings, we do have redundancy. For example, in this building, we've got 3 boilers, that if one did go, we do have the others, so there's not that fear that, okay, we're gonna lose the boiler system and things are gonna freeze. We've got the roof replacement that's going on now, so that's one thing that we don't have to worry about. The heating, ventilating, cooling systems, we've been upgrading those over the last several years based on the HVAC replacement plan, and we're also doing some work this summer up in the B wing as far as replacing some of those units with more air conditioning and stuff like that. That was part of some of the ESSA funding that we've been able to do. So, could something break? Yes, but I think overall, most of the equipment that we have is in pretty good shape, that I don't see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you've been fortunate to have made good investments in your infrastructure over time, right? Steady repair and replacement of items so that you don't find yourselves in that kind of a position, but we can't give 100% guarantee, obviously, on anything, right?
Now, if we did get donations, would that go back into the fund, or would that,
If we have donations between now and August, September, that would offset the price, so
okay,
let's,
all right,
Yeah, you'd have to withdraw less from
Right.
the trust.
right.
And I really appreciate you going to bat for that, because I know it's hard to ask for money, right? I would not want this project to go to a warrant article. I feel like if we're gonna ask our taxpayers for money, it's gotta be something crucial, right? And I feel this is crucial, but it sort of started with leftover funds and that sort of thing. So I feel like being fiscally responsible is ultimate, an ultimate responsibility of all of us. But yet, at the same token, I think we have to acknowledge those funds that we're being concerned about come from the people we want to share it with. So,
Anybody else? Okay, well, at this point then, I guess, I would ask,
Yeah, I think it's whether you have a motion to.
if we want a motion to accept the bid to move forward, because they're,
I think you want to make a motion to withdraw first.
Okay.
Right. And then you would award the bid.
okay. So, would anybody like to make a motion to withdraw from the building fund?
I would. I'm sort of in the same position Desiree was.
Motion to
Yeah.
withdraw
Oh,
one,
just a
Yeah.
$164,500 in accordance with the public hearing held on March 20th, 2024 for the construction of access pathways to the athletic fields.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I feel like we need just like a little round of applause after that one. I really do. This is very exciting. Thank you everyone for your patience and giving us a little extra time to kind of
Absolutely.
do the battle in our head.
No, because it is something that was brought to our attention, that it was something that was needed, something that was wanted, but it's like, it is also, I think it's a good move, so I'm good with it.
Thank you.
BCK was the recommended bid, so it would be, okay, why am I not getting that?
Motion to award the athletic field access pathways project bid to BK Excavation LLC for $164,500.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Well done. When will this start?
Probably.
As soon as
Get
school's
us-
over?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm
Okay.
thinking for the grand finale, we get a helicopter ride so we can see, Bill, what you were talking about, the
Oh, the
W
W,
shape.
yeah.
Yes.
The board would like a
Yeah.
flyover.
We would
When
definitely
maybe
like that.
Administration,
No, I,
Yes.
we'll
We
make
could
it-
maybe get
we'll-
some
we'll
students
paint
to
it or we'll
take a
do something
drone
so-
okay, all right.
Well, you know, all right, we'll compromise. Unless you wanna go up in the drone, no, okay, all right, perfect. All right, so, next one is the school board committee appointments. So, at this point, what I have down so far is Tricia is SST and facilities, Nicole is operations, Tamara's policy, Desiree, the other thing too is we're gonna talk about a communications committee, right? Desiree, do you have some thoughts on that you wanna share?
I do, and I also wanted to kind of open it up for discussion just to, before I kind of started going full throttle and writing down every idea I had, because I started thinking about this and thinking, yeah, and I kept going with these ideas, but I said I want to see if everyone's on the same page as me. But from what I've experienced this past year of going from a parent, being a first-time parent in public schools with my son just being in kindergarten, now being on the school board, and then also a taxpayer, I'm kind of in these three positions, and what I see is just a breakdown in communication, and it's not any fault of ours. I think it's just ever-changing with how people are consuming, what we're trying to tell them. We have our new, firm, and we had the communications plan that we just reviewed at the last joint board. And I feel like there needs to be something in between. So a communications timeline for the year. Okay, in September we need a good news story about going back to school. Who's sending out that blast to the administration, to the teachers? Hey, we need this good news story. Send it to us at the committee, and we filter through, work as a liaison to the communications committee, and give them the information that's coming from the schools, because what seems to be happening is we have this new tool, the firm, and it's new to everybody, and I can just imagine being in the day-to-day of being a teacher at the school and thinking, my students are doing something really cool, everyone needs to know about this, and then the week goes by and I get it. It's hard, it's that next step. It's almost like if you have to do social media for your business, no one wants to do it anymore because it's a pain in the butt. I get that. So I think having, and I see it as a joint board, as board members, and also, of course, faculty, and potentially even, citizens and the taxpayers, a couple that may have some input. So, goals for it, of course, to be determined and more established as time goes on, and meeting with, a group that would like to do this. But I think it would really behoove us, at least to give it a shot, and like I said, just to be that liaison, to get out there and try to find these stories, to take it off the plate of, the social studies teacher that did something really cool 2 weeks ago and then thought, oh, that would have been a good thing to send in, but here we are now, it's 4 weeks later and we don't even know what day it is. I get it, So that was my initial thoughts on how I started going with this, but of course I want to hear what you all think, if you think it's a good idea, any ideas on, any of that.
I think it's a great idea. I think and having it, I like your idea of getting all the boards involved, do you know what I mean? And having maybe somebody from each one that would do it, because as we were talking about with the firm that we hired, it's still that step of getting it to them. They're not asking us for it, they're not out searching for it correctly, and we have to give it to them to then put it out to the universe. So having somebody do that extra step would be amazing, I think, and it would just, I don't know, I like it, I see a lot of steps that it could grow
It
to
will
something
build,
really
it
cool.
will build.
Absolutely.
I think for now, it's just setting that foundation, little things like social media is all looking cohesive between the SAU. Email letterheads all looking cohesive between the SAU. It's little things, but they do mean a lot.
Right.
And then, serving as that liaison, setting up a timeline for the year with the communications firm from September to the end of the school year. What do you want to see each month? And how are you folks going to distribute it? And get that moving. And then from there, let's survey, the parents, survey the taxpayers. How do you receive information from the
Right, how
schools?
do
Do
you
you
wanna
want a
get it from us?
newsletter?
Right.
Do you want someone chirping in your ear on social media? Do you want a Zoom? There's so many things. There's so many ways to communicate now.
No, there are.
So I
think it's
see it
great.
just ever evolving.
No. Ideas?
I think it's very important to define our audience, to create platforms, stick to them, and set goals, right? And make it fun. Get some buy-in. I think of the presentation tonight about when shared. I mean, that
so
was
cool.
just so fabulous.
Yes.
And it's anybody who's connected to Winnacunnet would be interested in learning about that, right?
Local business owners, community, they might not even have students in the school, but
Right.
they want to hear this stuff because
Yeah,
it's a pretty
Winnacunnet.
cool
What is that? My. It's funny. I do a lot of traveling with softball these days, and everybody's like, "Where's Winnacunnet? What is that a town?" And nobody understands what it combines. And anyway, I'm getting off track. But as far as the communication piece goes, I love the idea of a committee. Because it's work and it's constant, and you're only as good as your last message. So if we can, set a goal of, I don't know, how many newsletters or whatever format is best, and get them done and have deadlines, I think we'll feel successful.
I think so, and I think the other thing too is getting the public, our taxpayers who, are always so good and generous in supporting us, it's great when they see us at Empty Bowls or an art show or, those big things.
Yeah.
But the everyday that goes on in this school is amazing when you know everything that's going
Right.
on, and I still don't know everything they do.
Right.
So, but sharing those things, they're invested in it. Do you know what I mean? And then they're like, so then when we do say, we need our budget passed, or we need this, they're far more willing and excited to do it, not just, oh, what do you guys do up there again? So
creates that transparency, and transparency is key.
exactly, yeah. No, I think it's a great idea. I
Thank
really
you.
do.
Yeah, I do too, because that way there would be a more stable feed to the PR firm, and we'd be getting more bang for our buck with the PR
Absolutely.
firm.
Yep.
I think it's a great idea.
Would you be interested in heading that for us?
Sure.
Yay.
That's another
Love that. But then maybe we can bring it to the
I was
joint
gonna
board.
say, and then we can, add it to the agenda for the operations committee to talk about adding to the joint board agenda.
Great, I
for
can
that
come
May
up with
meeting.
maybe like a little bit more of a guideline and initial thoughts
That'd be
to
great.
present. I actually did reach out to a couple of other school districts that have these boards, just to get some insight, and a couple of them did reach back to me,
Oh,
just
great.
to say, when we started up, here's some pitfalls we encountered, and same thing,
Nice.
clear goals, clear timelines, things of that nature. But it's been very insightful to see what they thought it was gonna be and what now it's turned into.
Yeah,
So that's been pretty beneficial, so.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that work too.
Oh, of course.
What else do we need?
So, budget committee,
Let's jump on that.
I don't mind,
Okay.
unless somebody's really wants it.
I would say, but
Does anyone want to spend time with us?
Yeah. So we've got, all right, so, Tricia, and I can be the alternate for that.
So we might just need to back up. So we have operations, I believe you said Nicole, and you'll need an alternate for that. That's 5 times a year.
I can be the alternative. Yeah,
you've
that's no
done that.
problem.
Okay.
Policy committee, Tamara's going to take on, and you'll need an alternate for that. Maybe Nicole would take that, since she was doing policy.
Sure.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good swap.
Yeah. What else can we give her?
Sorry, Nicole.
Hope you're enjoying
Hope you're
vacation.
having a great
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Love this.
No negotiations this year, so I wrote down Tricia for Budget Committee with Leslie as the alternate. New Hampshire School Board Association delegate.
You know what, I am just not gonna be able to make Saturdays.
Okay.
You know,
I enjoy
my
doing
life is
it,
going
so-
in
Do you want to do
that
it?
direction, so.
That's right.
Yeah, you're in the sports world now.
I know.
It's a full-time
I tell you, it is.
It is a full-time
I
job.
see it.
7 days a week.
And you can, once that date is announced, if for some reason you can't go, you can appoint an alternate later.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I
That
really
makes
enjoyed it
sense.
last year.
Okay.
Facilities Committee.
That's gonna be Tricia.
Okay, oh, sorry. Yep.
It's okay.
Unless somebody else really wants it, but I enjoy.
You enjoy it, so
Do we need an alternate for that?
I could be the alternate for that. if you want.
Okay. Wellness and joint loss, they're two separate committees, but they overlap. You can see they meet during the school day quarterly.
Oh, there we go. During the school day?
Mm-hmm.
I can do that if you need. Yeah.
Do you need an alternate?
You can put me on the alternate on that.
Okay. And then the last one, which only meets once, I think, in June, would be the extracurricular stipends committee.
I can do that if anybody wants to give it up. Leslie?
It's fine.
I've actually done that. I did that with the Northampton board,
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
And someone want to be the alternate for that, just only because it's
One time.
one.
Put me as the
Yeah.
Oh, hopefully it's not
Falls
on,
on a bad day.
Yeah, Desiree said she
Oh,
could be the
Desiree,
alternate.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
hopefully it's not on graduation.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
That's not happening.
I don't think so. Yeah, okay. Is that it then?
I think so.
All right.
You got, okay.
Yep, and then we've got board goals. So at this point. Oh, we have to vote on the appointments?
Probably doesn't hurt. Motion
Okay.
to approve.
Okay, you have a motion? Okay, why do I not have a motion?
You might be in guest, as a guest, not authenticated, but
I think that's it. Okay, sorry. Anybody want a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept the school board committee appointments.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Thank you. All right.
then you're on to school board.
Now we're on to school board goals. So, we have a set from last year, correct? I don't think I've
We
listed
do,
them.
they're not
but
included, yeah.
No, so, what I'm gonna
Maybe
suggest at
2
this,
years ago?
yeah, I wanna bring this maybe next time, so look up the ones that we have on there, and then we can discuss next meeting,
Okay.
any new goals or adjustments that we, like, how we feel we've met the goals that we have, and if we haven't met them, what can we do better to meet them?
Okay.
And then if there's new goals that we wanna set, is that okay?
Mhm.
All right, thank you, appreciate
Make
that.
sure Rhonda adds your prior goals.
Yes, thank you.
We can send them out, like, this week, so that you
Great.
have them to
Okay.
review.
Thanks. All right, and then we need, I don't think anybody called in with anything, issues on the second read and the adoption of policies, but if there's anything now, let me know, and if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the adoption and withdrawal as recommended for the 18 policies.
I'll motion to approve the adoption and withdrawal as recommended for the 18 policies as presented.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Great. Thank you. Federal grant, general assurances.
Dr. Hobbs will give you a brief overview.
I'd love to.
Dr. Hobbs, thank you.
These are the general assurances for the grants that I mentioned during my report. And it's a consolidated signature, so what we're asking for is the board to motion to allow your chair to sign off that we're following the rules with respect to federal grants.
Sounds good. I promise I'll initial clearly. So do we have a motion then?
I'll motion to authorize the board chair, Leslie LaFond, to sign the fiscal year 2025 general assurances on behalf of the Winnacunnet School Board.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Just let me know when you want me to sign those.
We will send them to you via DocuSign, probably as early as tomorrow.
Sounds great. Oh, look, they're already sent. No, I'm kidding. Love DocuSign. Okay, last day of school.
Yes, so, you have enough hours, even though you had 2 days, where students really weren't here, the primary day, which was kind of a late addition to your calendar, and then a late April, or early April, but late in the season, snow day. So you meet the hours requirement, so, the recommendation, that we're providing to you is still to have students finish their school year on June 12th, having met the hours requirement. And then the teachers would need to make up, the teachers and educational associates would need to make up those 2 days, the presidential primary day and the snow day. So the last day for students, or proposed last day for students would be Wednesday, June 12th, with the last day for teachers and educational associates being Monday, June 17th.
Okay.
It's so wild seeing the snow day as April 4th.
I know.
It just, the
It's
fact
been a
that
long
happened
time
was
since-
wild.
Yeah.
Right?
I
Yeah.
remember the April Fool's storm very
Yes,
well.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so we need a motion for that, or is that?
Yes, please. We're feeling confident that there won't be one in May.
Oh my God, that's so great.
No, not-
Yeah, quickly.
Mostly confident.
Yeah, okay. So then can we have a motion then for the dates as stated?
I'll move to approve the dates for the last day of school for Winnacunnet students as Wednesday, June 12th, and the last day of school for Winnacunnet teachers and EAs, Monday, June 17th.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you very much.
What day is graduation?
Friday, June 7th.
The 7th, okay.
That doesn't change.
Nope.
What's that?
I kept thinking it was the
Graduation.
16th,
Yeah.
the 7th, wow. Seems early
And
this year.
Meredith is graduating the same day.
Yes, I will, for the first time,
Yeah.
I will miss Winnacunnet's graduation to attend my own daughter's graduation, which is the same evening, but,
Yes, but we're so excited for her too, so.
but my team will be there.
Our next one is an increase in, meals.
Yes. So in your packet was the recommendation from Dr. Ferreira, a 10-cent increase for lunch and a 5-cent increase for breakfast in accordance with the federal guidelines. That would bring lunch price to $3.85 for the upcoming school year and breakfast at $2.55.
Any discussion on that or questions?
I'm amazed that that's all it
Mhm.
is, you know, with all the,
Right. And with what they provide, it's,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
all right, and could I have a motion then to approve that?
I'll make the motion to approve a lunch price of $3.85 and a breakfast price of $2.55 respectively for the 2024-25 school year.
Second,
A second.
thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. I mean, and as we know, this is price-wise, it is low, you're right. There are still families in need that don't, and I want it known, no child should be hungry. There is a way to feed every student, every child, every person in this building. There is a way around it and a way to do it. So, if you are in need, or know somebody that is in need, please reach out.
And also, this is rarely mentioned, but the free and reduced lunch data that is used by the state. It is the one and only consistent piece of data that they have to set the funding for communities. So if, you know, you are in a position to, you know, apply or not apply, I would encourage anybody to do it because you're actually helping the entire school. And it's nothing, you know, to feel bad about. You're actually helping the community by doing that, so.
Yeah, and that information is confidential.
Oh, completely.
As well.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
just to
it's
make sure
not,
people
it's
are
not
aware
tied
of
to,
that.
yeah.
Um,
It's just data point, it's just
Mhm.
numbers, yeah.
Yeah, cause
Yeah.
there's, the badge gets, you
goes
know,
to one source and that's it.
exactly, so,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up, Leslie.
It's, yeah, I don't think we talk about that
No.
much,
No.
but,
Next one is the award of bid for security fencing.
Yes, so, through our we received another round of SAFE grant funding. And so with those funds, that is the safety and security, funding that has been provided, we were approved for a fencing project. The bid we are recommending is to Atlantic Coast Fence Company Incorporated in the amount of $55,975.
And where is this fencing going?
Around the full property,
Okay,
because the fencing there, the existing fencing needs to be replaced.
okay.
does it include anything for the, like the front of the building, I know, or is that a separate?
That was a separate.
Okay, all right.
And these, again, these were from Homeland Security recommendations.
Yeah, it was a grant that we applied, and once we saw it, then we got it.
Great, that's awesome. All right, could I get a motion then?
Motion to award the security fencing bid to Atlantic Coast Fence Company Incorporated in the amount of $55,975.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Future meetings, we have legislative roundtable is Tuesday, April 30th. Our SAU 21 Operations Committee meeting is Tuesday, May 7th. Winnacunnet School Board meeting is Wednesday, May 15th. The SAU 21 Joint Board meeting is Tuesday, May 21st. And the SAU 21 Joint Board Policy Committee is Tuesday, May 28th. And we are now going into non-public, please. So could I have a motion to go into non-public?
I'll move that we entered non-public session under RSA 91-Roman:3, Roman 2, 8th one.
Letter C.
Letter C.
Letter C. Yep. That's 7:46.
7:46.
There we go. Second?
I'll second.
Great. And roll call?
Okay, Desiree Potter,
Yes.
Leslie LaFawn,
Yes.
Tamara Lennon,
Yes.